Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to my Applied Linguistics. This is the 10th lecture, al-Muhadara al-Ashira, and I hope that you have seen my previous lectures, all of my previous lectures, and I hope that you have benefited from. I do have to apologize before I start this lecture by saying that during the last 9 lectures or so, I was sort of repeating that I haven't had any emails or I haven't had any calls. To be honest with you, I have had enough calls and also enough emails. It doesn't mean that I'm not gonna, accept more, but I'm just saying that there was a sort of a time discrepancy between what I say, or the time of my lectures, and the emails and the phone calls that you make to me. Now, we are in the 5th week or the 6th week now in in the semester. Now this is my 10th lecture, so there is a sort of a time discrepancy. Anyway, I wish that all of you have had the chance to look at the lectures or the previous lectures so far, and I hope that from now on that you will keep on sending me emails, also calling me for any clarifications or questions, should there be any. I do want also to say that I'm quite thankful. Thank you so much for all of your praising, your nice words, that I'm giving you excellent lectures. I do really appreciate that, and it is my duty that I do that, and I hope that the rest of the lectures will be as good as the previous ones. Now, let me take you excuse me, let me take you to my topic today. Let me remind you of my last topic. My last topic was talking about or teaching receptive skills. When I say receptive, I'm talking about reception. Okay, من reception, من الاستقبال، مهارات الاستقبالية إذا جاز التعبير. Now we're talking about listening, also reading. Okay, they call it receptive skills. Now today I'll be talking about teaching productive skills. Now when I say productive, I'm talking about intaj. Now what are the skills that we produce? Okay, we have speaking as a production, and also writing as a production or a productive skill. Now, when I teach you something like this, all what I mean here is not to tell you how to teach it, but how to understand the whole issue that surrounds teaching productive English or productive skills and teaching also receptive skills. I will be tackling so many issues, okay, so we can understand the process of teaching productive and receptive skills. Okay, so I won't take you and tell you, well, this is how you teach this element. I will only take you in a sort of general trip, so you can understand how the teaching of receptive or productive skills can be. Okay, so let me take you now to teaching productive skills and to the first slide. Now let us agree that in order for communication to be successful, we have to structure our discourse. When I say discourse, أنا سياق الحديث, okay, discourse in such a way that it will be understood by our listeners and or readers. Okay, so we have to structure our utterances, okay, to structure our discourse in a way that will be understood to the hearer or to the reader. Now, if those or that discourse is not structured well, the message will not get across. So the hearer or the reader or the listener will not understand our messages. So first of all, we as English teachers inshallah, future English teachers or even English learners, we have to know that in order to teach productive skills, we have to structure our discourse in a way that will be understood by the readers or by the listeners. Also, I'm quite sure that some of you have had already heard about coherence or coherent writing. When I say coherent, I'm talking about يعني الترابط ما بين الأشياء. Okay, so coherent writings or writing makes sense because you can follow the sequence of ideas and points. Without coherently writing, you will not get your listener or your reader, okay, or the follower, I would say, to understand your message from the writing. So your writing, if you are going to be teaching writing, or the writing that you will be used in your materials, should be, okay, coherent, because students can follow the ideas and points in an easy way. Imagine if I give you a writing that is not coherent. لما أقول coherent معناها أقول شغلات مترابطة. أقول incoherent معناها غير مترابط. Now, if it's not coherent, meaning that I have an idea from here, the other idea is absolutely not connected to the first idea, like an idea from somewhere else, the writing passage or the writing will not be coherent. So, one of the main ideas for us as English teachers or English language learners, that our writing or the writing that we use as a material, it needs to be coherent. Now, also, when people with similar cultural and linguistics backgrounds, لما يكون خلفيات الخلفية مشتركة ما بين اللي يتكلمون اللغة, the cultural and linguistic knowledge backgrounds get together. When they get together, لما يجتمعون, they speak to each other easily. ليش يتكلمون بشكل يعرفون بعض? Because they know the rules of conversation in their language and their shared culture. Very easy. They have the same background, cultural and linguistic background. That's why they can easily communicate with each other, okay? Because they have the same linguistic background and they have the same culture background too. So, what I'm trying to say here, that when you present your students, your future students, well, even you now, when I present you with something, I have to take care of your linguistic background and also your cultural background or cultural background. Now, when they write to each other, I'm talking about those people who have the same or similar cultural and linguistic background. When they write to each other, they obey certain conventions. يحترمون إيش؟ طريقة الكتابة لبعضهم لأنهم they are having the same cultural and linguistic background. يعني لما أنا أرسل أو أكتب لأحد زملائي، أوكي، سعودي ويعرف أو من نفس الباك جراوند حقي، معناها ممكن أكتب له بأي طريقة معينة أنه there is conventions or there are conventions ما بيننا وما بين بعض، أوكي، أو خلينا نقول عرف تقليد معين to write to each other. Now, so in order for us as English teachers or even English language learners, we have to obey or know these conventions. So as if I'm, telling you, as if I am telling you that when I teach writing, I have also to teach my students the conventions that comes in between the writing process. هي ما عمرها صارت إنه you just tell me how to write subject, verb, object. But there are things that are attached to the language, which is what we call the socio-cultural aspects of the language. Okay? We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about that. Now, such rules and conventions, هذه القواعد خلينا نقول والتقاليد في الكتابة are not written down anywhere. Okay? ما هي مكتوبة anywhere. Nor are they easy to define. We can't easily define it. We cannot easily define it. But at some cultural level, some schemata, ذكرون كلمة schemata, you remember me when I talked about schemata last time? هي المعرفة القبلية، معرفتك عن الأشياء أو معرفتك عن الأشياء قبل التكلم عنها أو التحدث عنها أو الكتابة عنها أو whatever. So the schemata, okay, our schemata help us to communicate with each other successfully. Okay? Our schemata help us to communicate with each other successfully بشكل ناجح, because we have our history in life, so it can help us communicate with each other. Now, I want you as English language learners and hopefully future English language teachers, okay, or users أو حتى مستخدمين, that you have to understand when you want to write something or speak about something, there are conventions, there are rules. Now, I'm not talking about the linguistic rules, I'm talking about the socio-economic / cultural rules, okay? عشان أحدنا يتكلم مع خلينا نقول مع شخصية عالية جدا في المجتمع, the language is different. To talk to kids, to children, there is a certain language that we can use. Also, the type of writing that we use with a high class, or let's say a VP, a vice president of a company, would be completely different from writing to somebody who's like my colleague or my friend, or chat with my friends, which would be absolutely different from that. Now, let me take you to the second slide. Now, there are 3 areas I want you to concentrate on. I'm reading here, by the way. Okay, there are 3 areas of rules which we should consider. Okay, so if I am teaching something, if I am using something like to speak about something or write something, I have to consider these 3 areas of rules, or areas of rules, I should say. Now, the socio-cultural rules. What do I mean by socio-cultural rules? I'm talking about that speakers from similar cultural backgrounds know how to speak to each other in terms of how formal to be. ايش معنى formal? What does formal mean? يكون رسمي مع بعض. Okay, how formal to be, or what kind of language they can use, وش طبع اللغة أو وش طبيعة اللغة اللي يستخدمونها. How loud to speak, هذه من الأشياء مهمة جدا. How loud معناه يعني مستوى الصوت، هل هو صوت عالي ولا صوت منخفض. Okay, or how close to stand to each other. حتى المسافة ما بين الأشخاص لما يتكلمون ما بينهم ما بين بعض is very important. So what I'm trying to say, that when I teach my students how to speak, I also need to teach them how they stand. What's the personal distance that they have to keep. يعني عندنا حنا, for example, in Saudi Arabia, when you talk to somebody, you can get very close to him لدرجة إنه ممكن تصير قريب منه about 40 centimeters, يمكن على بعد مسطرة ولا مسطرتين. I know some people would be very annoyed when somebody stands before their faces. Probably even their smell would not, sorry to say that, they would not smell good. Okay? In other cultures, especially in America, and I know in Europe, that the distance, the personal distance, خلينا نقول المسافة ما بينك وما بين المتحدث إليك أو العكس, okay, needs to be fairly away. يعني لازم واحد يتكلم مع أحد بعيد شوي, okay, because they consider this as the personal zone. What I'm trying to say, that even you as English language learners, or inshallah future language teachers, you need to teach your students and teach yourself too. And wallahi, when I speak, when my students speak, they need to keep a distance. Also, they need to be absolutely sure how loud they may sound, okay? They cannot sound like very loud, because لما تتكلم مع واحد خلينا نقول من المجتمعات الغربية, from the Western cultures, they normally don't speak that loud. Okay, so we have to also to teach ourselves how loud we can sound. Okay, also when we write something, okay, we need to sort of يعني measure, نقيس whether I use it very formal type of language, or maybe less than formal, or probably an informal way of writing, or even formal way of speaking, or informal way of speaking. And you know, now in the internet, the chats and everything can be very informal. Even if when you write to someone, or one of your chatters, I would say, you would write to him or to her in a very informal way. Absolutely the opposite when you are writing to someone who is a high class, or a senior VP, or senior vice president, or a vice president, or a president, or ولا رتبة عسكرية, or a high rank in the military. You have to write to him formally, and also when you speak to him or to her, you have to speak in a formal way. بطريقة رسمية. Formal معناها رسمي. Now, number two, also we need to teach our students when they speak, okay, is when to turn take. Okay, إيش معنى كلمة turn take؟ يعني أخذ الدور. Now, turn taking in any conversation, okay, decisions have to be taken about each person about when each person should speak. Okay? Now, this is turn taking, a term which refers to the way in which participants in conversation get their chance to speak. It is my turn to speak. After a while, it is your turn to speak, and so on. It's turn taking. So we have to teach our students, when we are teaching them speaking, how to turn take. Okay? يعني ما تجي في نص عذرا بالكلمة دي احنا نقولها بالسعودي تخش عرض. Okay? You don't do that. You don't cut him in the middle. Okay? And so on. So, I'm reading here now. They do this by knowing how to signal verbally, لفظيا, or even visually, that they want to turn, or conversely بالمحادثة, by recognizing when the other speakers are signaling that they want to finish, and are therefore giving them the space to take a speaking turn. Okay? Now, there are so many ways of signaling when you speak or when you take the turn, okay? And there are also so many verbal, لفظية, ولا even visual, مرئية, and it's just very evident to tell the other partner or the party that speaks with you or who speaks with you, okay, that it's time that you take the turn, or the other way around, that you take the turn. So we have to teach our students how to do that too. Okay? Very important. Now, also, we talked about speaking. Now, let's talk about the rules also of writing. There are rules for writing. Writing has rules too. Now, which we need to recognize and either follow, من احنا نتبعها إذا عرفنا writing rules, or purposefully بالتعمد كذا, okay, flout, okay, معنى أنه يعني لا نعيرها اهتمام. Okay, now a very good example would be the internet chat. Now, a lot of people who have been to internet chats, you can be very formal and you follow the writing rules, okay, or as you know, in so many of the chat rooms, you've got everybody talking or writing at the same time. So there are no obedience of the writing rules. ما في احترام لقاعدة ايش؟ الكتابة. And also there are also some يعني violations sometimes, even if you have somebody who you are chatting with, only two guys or three-way chatting, that you'll have what we call a violation. تعدي على قضية طرق الكتابة, either by turn taking or probably by speaking, by writing nonsense words, bad words, and so many other things, probably informal words. Sometimes when you use formal language in a chat, that would be very strange, because this is not the setting where you use a formal language. Okay, now let me take you to the second slide, or the third slide, that we have different styles and genres. Remember what we said about genres? Okay, now what are the different styles of the productive skills and the different genres of the productive skills? Let's read with each other. Our language, لغتنا, or language use is determined by a number of factors. عندنا أكثر من factor, أكثر من عنصر. First among these is the purpose of our communication. What do we opt for? وش الغرض من الكوميونيكيشن حقنا? And what we want to achieve. وش اللي نبغى نحققه? What do we want to achieve out of it? Okay? So these are some of the factors that we need to conduct a communication. So we need to know the purpose. Also, we need to know why we are doing this, and we want to know what we are going to achieve behind that communication. So the form in which we try to achieve that purpose is determined by other parameters, such as the setting. ايش معنى setting؟ setting نتكلم عن المكان، وضع الشيء. لما أتكلم مع زميلي في الكوريدور is a completely different setting from me going to مدير الجامعة وأتكلم معه. The setting is different. Okay? Also, the channel, وسيلة الاتصال. Am I talking to him by phone, face to face, through the internet? So the channel we are using to communicate by is a very important factor. And also the type of communication اللي سميناها آخر مرة, the genre. The genre, we're talking about which we are involved in. So the type of communication or the genre which we are involved in. Now, if we want, I'm reading here by the way, if we want to give people facts, for example, خلينا بتكلم أنا بعطي محاضرة, خلينا نقول I will give them facts. So the purpose is giving them facts. So if we want to give people facts, هذا هو purpose, هذا غرضنا من الكوميونيكيشن. In a lecture theater في مسرح خلينا نقول المحاضرات. إذن the lecture theater is the setting. Okay, through a microphone, which is a channel, we will probably use a lecture genre. إذا lecture genre هي أفضل شيء نستخدمه في setting، في purpose through that channel. يسمونها lecture genre إذا طريقة محاضرة. Okay, so we will probably use a lecture genre with its typical patterns بطريقة المحاضرة العادية of rhetoric and organization. لما أتكلم عن طريقة المحاضرة تعرفون كلكم طرق المحاضرات بين السرد rhetoric and organization أيضا بنفس طريقة التنظيم حقتها. The whole event, okay, will be different from how we might transmit the same information. بيكون الوضع مختلف تماما. Okay, if we want to transmit the same information to a friend in an informal conversation. تخيل انك بتعطي نفس المعلومات اللي تبي تعطيها في المحاضرة لكن بتعطيها لأحد أصدقائك. Will it be the same? It won't be the same. So, as English language teachers and as English language learners, we have to understand what do we mean by the setting, or what do we mean by the purpose first, and where is the communication happen in a setting. Also, what is the channel that has been used or that is being used, okay, for the communication. Also, يعني the channel, also the participants, الأطراف اللي إيش يتبادلون الحديث، أو الأطراف المتعددة or the multi participants that are existing in the communication. So this in turn would be different from the kind of language we might use when writing the same information. احنا لو أخذنا الآن the same information, الفاكتس اللي قلنا عليها حقة اللكتشر, it would be different if I'm speaking it to my friend. Now imagine if you want to write it down to a magazine, would it be the same? It would be probably the same. It would be very formal. Okay, so this in turn would be different from the kind of language we might use when writing the same information in a particular magazine, or when writing an email to a colleague. Okay, so it depends on why you are writing, the purpose, okay, when or where are you writing, and also how will you write or how will you speak, okay, and who are the participants in that communication. I hope it's clear. So again, as English language teachers, or also as English language learners, we have to understand that we have a setting, we have a purpose, of course, we have a setting, also we have a channel, and we have to understand all of these parameters, هذه المعايير, in order to have a very successful communication. So in order to teach a production or a productive skill, you need to take care of all of those parameters. Now, in each of the above cases, قبل شوي اللي قلناها, all of the above cases in the first slide or the slides before that, the writer or speaker will operate at a different level of formality. طبعا الformality تعتمد عليها من تتكلم معه. We can characterize this as a level of intimacy. قربك من الشخص اللي تتكلم معاه أو اللي تكتب له. Okay? Where the more distant a speaker or a writer feels, okay, where the more, I'm reading here by the way, where the more distant a speaker or writer feels themselves to be from their audience, لما يكون بعيد عن الجمهور حقهم أو البعد أو المسافة اللي بينهم ما بين اللي يتكلمون معه أو الأودينس أو جمهورهم, or the more tentative they feel about their message, لو يحسوا أنهم مش متأكدين من الرسالة اللي مؤخذة أو المتبادلة, the greater will be their use of formal grammar and lexis. كل ما صار في distance, في بعد ما بين المتحدث والمتلقي, أو خلينا نقول علاقة رسمية إذا جاز التعبير, or إنه مو متأكد بأنه والله هل سيقبل the other party المسج حقه, the more formal our grammar and lexis will be. Now when I say grammar, معروف الجرامر, lexis أقصد فيها المفردات, انتقاء المفردات. Okay? A feeling of distance will make the use of well-formed sentences. دائما لما يكون في بعد, خلينا نقول ما في أقل intimacy, أقل خلينا نقول تقارب, دائما sentences are very well formed and writing a priority. Now, the feeling of distance will make the use of well-formed sentences and writing a priority. حتكون أولوية, خصوصا when we write to somebody ما في علاقة, يعني زي ما قالوا مسبوقة ما بينه وما بينه, أو هو رئيس وأنا أكتب له, okay, أو أنا مواطن وأكتب لي مدير دائرة حكومية. So there is the well-formed sentences. It will be a priority, especially when it's writing. Closeness, on the other hand, قرب الشخص منك أو المتحدث لك أو معرفتك به المسبقة, leads to spontaneity. Spontaneity معناها العفوية, okay? So that in conversation the occurrence of ellipses, يعني حتى لو زي ما قالوا حنا تأتأنا ولا تلكأنا في الكلام أو حتى في الكتابة, okay? Non-clausal sentences, يعني بمعنى ما تحط subject, verb, agreement, لا مجرد تحط كلمة وتفهم الكلمة هذه. Tags, يعني إشارات زي ما قالوا لغوية, is more common. لما يكون في closeness, في قرب ما بين المتحدث أو الكاتب والمكتوب له, أو المتحدث والمستمع, يكون هناك فيه زي ما قالوا less formal, أقل رسمية، قضية الكتابة أو قضية الحديث. Now, in order to speak and write at different levels of intimacy, students need to practice in different genres. إذن أنا كمدرب أو مدرس للطلاب، أوكي، يجب أني آخذ الطلاب هذول وأعرضهم to different genres. يعني معناها بكرة لما أجي أدرس أحد الطلاب في مدارسنا، أو أدرس حتى أختي ولا أخوي ولا أحد زملائي، لازم I have to take them to different genres. يعني اليوم في طريقة السبيكينج في lecture، اليوم الثاني طريقة السبيكينج في فيلم، اللي بعدها في يعني very normal setting في الشارع عزكم الله نحن نقول، ولا between a mom and her son, between a father and his daughter, okay, all those, or between a friend and a friend too. All of these different genres we need to present our students with. So أنا different styles لازم نعرضهم ل different styles so that as their level increase they can vary the grammar, functions and lexes that they will use or that they use. When I teach them يعني the language in different settings for different purposes with different participants, okay, for sure their grammar will increase or their use of grammar will be better, and also the functions, the linguistic functions will be even better, not to mention the lexes or the vocabulary اللي أنا أعرضهم له، okay, أو سيستخدمونه, or the lexes that they will be using in their discourse or the give and take process. Now, the reason again why I'm saying this to you, because I'm expecting you that you use this with your students, or you use it even with yourselves to teach yourselves that or those important notions in teaching or learning the productive skills. Interacting with audience or with an audience is very important. Part of our speaking proficiency depends upon our ability to speak differentially. يعني لما أكون مثلا خلينا نقول مع طفل وأتكلم مع طفل is completely different when I talk to an adult. When I talk to a chairman of a company ولا رئيس شركة, it's completely different when I talk with a regular employee. So differentially, okay? So our speaking proficiency, مهارتنا في الكلام, okay, depends upon our ability to speak differentially, okay? Depending upon our audience, من هو جمهورنا. Also upon the way we absorb their reaction, كيف ناخذ ونعطي معاهم بردود أفعالهم. We have to teach our students that. In order to be a fluent speaker in the second language, you need to understand reactions. Okay, when I talk to you like this, when I give you a signal, probably with my face, it means that you ought to understand certain message from me. Maybe I'm not content, maybe I'm not happy, okay, with what you say. So when you understand my reactions, especially in speaking, you will be fluent or in the second language. Also, you will be competent in the foreign language or that second language. So, depending upon our audience, also upon the way we absorb their reaction and respond to it in some way or another. مش فقط استقبال ردود الأفعال، أيضا responding to the reactions. Also, part of our writing ability also depends upon our ability to change our style. Now, when I want to write you, for example, my students, I can write you for pleasure. Okay? ممكن الواحد يكتب لإمتاع الآخرين. There is another type of writing or another style of writing. It's like is the writing for للإقناع, for persuasion. Okay? Probably I can write you for, as I said, for pleasure or as a friend. Okay, so the style is different. So our writing ability, okay, depends upon the ability to change our style and the structure to suit the person or the people we are writing for. Okay, again, our students or even you as my students need to know that in order to be a good writer or a good speaker, you have to change your styles and the structure that you are using in the productive skills, either speaking or writing. I hope I'm clear here. So how do we deal with difficulties? Now, we deal with difficulties as follows. When speakers or writers of their own or of a foreign language do not know a word, when we don't know a word or just cannot remember it, ما نقدر نتذكر الكلمة هذه أو ما نعرفها, they may employ some or all of the following strategies to resolve the difficulty that they are encountering. Okay? ممكن يلجؤون إلى هذه الطرق لحل هذه الإشكال. ما عرفت الكلمة باللغة الإنجليزية. What do I do? ما تذكرت الكلمة هذه باللغة الإنجليزية. What do I do? Okay? So we have to give our students the chance, the space to do the following. Number one, improvising. Improvising إيش معناها؟ معناها ارتجال. Okay? Speakers sometimes try any word or phrase they can, okay, they can come up with in the hope that it is about right. ممكن الواحد يلوح كلمة كده يعتقد انها صحيحة. Okay? So this is only one strategy of what? Of not knowing the word or not remembering the word. Also, there is another strategy that it is used by the language learners is the discarding. يعني معناها إغفال الموضوع برمته زي ما قالوا. When speakers simply cannot find words for what they want to say, they may discard the thought that they cannot put into words. يعني يلغي الفكرة completely. This is one strategy that my students or inshallah your future students might do. So we need to take care of that too. Foreignizing من كلمة foreign. foreign معناها أجنبي. How do we foreignize our language? إنه في نص الكلام كده بالإنجليزي نلوح كلمة عربي لأنه ما أعرفها بالإنجليزي. Okay? Let me read for you. When operating in a foreign language, speakers and writers sometimes choose a word in a language they know well, such as their first language, and foreignize it in the hope it will be equivalent to the meaning they wish to express in the foreign language. بعض الإخوان والأخوات المتعلمين للغة يحاول زي ما قالوا إذا كان ما يعرف الكلمة باللغة الإنجليزية يجيب الكلمة حقتها باللغة العربية نفس المعنى باللغة العربية ويحاول يحورها بلسانه كده بحيث انها كأنها لغة أجنبية. It's not always right of course and it's rarely right actually. في النادر تكون صحيح. لكن this is one way or one strategy to overcome the hardship or the difficulties in production, either speaking or in writing. Number 4 is paraphrasing. وكلنا نعرف وش معنى كلمة paraphrasing. Paraphrasing انك تحاول تعود تتكلم بطريقة أخرى عشان إيصال المعنى. أوكي؟ رغم أنه هناك في طريقة أسهل لإيصال المعنى. لكن because you don't know the word, you paraphrase around it till you reach your goal. Now, speakers sometimes paraphrase. Now, how do they paraphrase? Talking about something for cleaning the teeth if they do not know the word toothbrush. Okay? So this is paraphrasing. Okay, problems we have, as usual, as we had problems with teaching receptive skills, in teaching productive skills we have problems. There are a number of reasons why students find language production difficult. However, there are a number of ways in which teachers can help students get as much out of the production classroom activities as possible. كيف نتغلب على المواضيع هذه كلها وانا نعرف ان البرودكشن is very difficult. ترى الرايتنج مو سهل والspeaking is not easy. I know that. Now, how do we overcome those problems? When the problem is in the language, learners engaged in productive task can become very frustrated. ممكن تكون محبط جدا when they just don't have the words or the grammar they need to express themselves. Okay? They don't know the words, they don't know the grammar. They will be very frustrated. Now, what are the solutions? Supply key language. كيف تعطيهم الكي language الأشياء الأساسية. Before we ask students to take part in a spoken or in a written activity, we may check their knowledge of key vocabulary. لازم أعطيهم الكلمات الأساسية. And help them with phrases or questions that will be helpful for the task. B, we have to plan our activities in advance. This is very important يا أخوان يا أخوات. Very important that we plan it ahead. So we plan activities in advance because of the time lag between, because of the time lag, I'm reading here by the way, because of the time lag between our students meeting new language and their ability to use it fluently, okay, we need to plan production activities that will provoke the use of language which they have had a chance to absorb at an earlier stage. يعني عط الطالب فرصة عط الطلاب فرصة انهم يستعيدون Okay, so let me read you again the solution for any language solutions as in B here. Okay, let me read you that. We have to plan our activities in advance قبلها بوقت كافي because of the time lag. زي كلمة jet lag إذا كنتم تفهمون jet lag between our students meeting a new language and their ability to use it fluently. We need to plan our production activities that will provoke the use of language which they have had a chance to absorb it at an earlier stage. So أعطوهم وقت، أعطوا الطلاب فرصة، وأيضا لازم نعطي طلابنا أيضا نعطي أنفسنا فرصة إنه some time to absorb or to participate in such activities in a meaningful way or in a good way. One of the problems that we have also, as you remember with the receptive skills, we have the problems with the topic. مواضيع اللي ندرسها and the general أيضا شكلها وين تقع وين تحدث وين التوبكس هذه تحدث فيه. Okay, the topics and genre or the topic and genre. Okay, I'm reading here now. When students are not interested in the topics we are asking them to write or speak about, they are unlikely to invest their language production with the same amount of efforts as they would if they were excited by the subject matter. ببساطة, if the topic is interesting, the students will participate, will invest their language. If the topic is not interesting and they don't have anything to relate to, they will not participate in a good way. تخيل انك قاعد تشرح للطلاب والطلاب they don't know anything about it. You will lose interest, they will lose interest, and the classroom session أو المحاضرة it will be very dull. Okay, dull معناها غير مجدية. Now, if they are completely unfamiliar with the genre, لو كانوا ما عمرهم تعرضوا خلينا نقول لهذا الطريقة من تقديم المعلومات خلينا نقول على شكل محاضرة ولا غيره. Okay, we are asking them to write in, or for example, مرة ثانية, let me read it again, I'm sorry. If they are, of the students يعني, if they are completely unfamiliar with the genre, we are asking them to write in. لما نطلب منهم يكتبون في شيء هم ما يعرفونه أساسا. For example, they may find it difficult to engage with the task we have given them. They will find it very difficult, especially in writing. لما تقول لواحد من طلابك ولا من طلاب اكتب خطاب لرئيس الجامعة ولا مدير الجامعة in English, of course. And this is the first time that they have, been into a situation like this. Do you think that they will know that? Do you think that they will, perform that in a good way? I'm not quite sure that they will do that because they are not familiar with that genre. Okay? Good. Now, what are the solutions? The solutions are, okay, choose interesting topics. دائما نذكر الطلاب أو المدربين إنه choose interesting topics. المواضيع لازم تكون interesting. Either the ones that we speak about or the ones we want them to write about. Now, also create interest in the topic. تحاول إذا كان التوبيك شوية ما هو يعني احنا نقول خفيف دم, try to create interest in it, okay? By asking them, give and take with them, okay? Have them interested. Number 3 is activate their schemata المعرفة القبلية, okay? Activate it. حاول أن نقول what do you think about this? Have it happened before to you? Did it happen to you before? So activate their schemata. Also, one of the good ways in your production or teaching production skills is that you vary the topics and genres. حطهم اليوم في موقف, اليوم topic معين في موقف معين, بكرة وبعد أسبوع حطهم في موقف معين في topic مختلف, and so on. Now, also provide necessary information. يا أخوان ويا أخوات الطلاب, okay? دائما يا أخوان لا تخلون زي ما قالوا الرجال أو المتعلم يغرق قطه في البحر قولوا راح تتصرف. No, provide necessary information. أعطيه المعلومات اللي يحتاجها المتدرب أو عفوا الطالب, so they can function well in whatever exercise they're about to tackle. Now, I know that teaching productive skills and receptive skills are not piece of cake, okay? Yet they are not difficult. If you are an English teacher, a good English teacher, you can do that easily. If you are a good language learner, لو كنت متعلم لغة إنجليزية, you can be very good in doing that too, absorbing these receptive skills and absorbing these productive skills. All what it takes from you is that you have to understand the environment surrounding these receptive and productive skills. By saying that, I do wish you the best wherever you guys are. Thanks for the people who have been in touch with me. I hope that I have been helpful and quite quick in responding to their emails and to their questions or their phone calls. I'll be also more than happy to continue offering this help. Wishing you the best wherever you guys are. From Abdullah Al-Mulhim here, I wish you the best. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.